We have admitted certain defects. We have ascertained in a rough way what the trouble is. We have put our finger on the weak items in our personal inventory. Now these are to be cast out. This requires action on our part, which when completed will mean that we have admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our defects, our wrongs, our faults, our mistakes, our shortcomings. It's all the same thing. This brings us to the fifth step in the program of recovery mentioned in the preceding chapter. This is perhaps difficult, especially discussing our defects with another person. We think we have done well enough admitting these things to ourselves. There is doubt about that. In actual practice, we usually find a solitary self-appraisal insufficient. Many of us thought it necessary to go much further. We will be more reconciled to discussing ourselves with another person when we see good reasons why we should do so. The best reason first. If we skip this vital step, we may not overcome drinking. And for us to drink is to die. It tells us that in this book. And so when we talk about our defects here, I don't have a problem. I can sit in a meeting and I can point out everybody else's defects because there's nothing standing in between me and their defects. They're on full display for me to assess and to look at and say, okay, this, I can pick you apart. But I can't see my own defects because in between myself and my own defects is an actual lifetime of rationalization and justification. I mean, rationalizing, justifying, saying, yes, but this is why. And I've noticed this over the years, sitting with men doing fifth step over in the time that I've been doing it. I can always tell when it's coming. And it's usually when somebody, I always tell us when I'm doing my fifth step, I tell my sponsor what I have written down and I leave it at that, right? Because once I start saying, okay, but there's a backstory to this, well, now here comes the justification. And I'm not looking for the backstory. I'm just looking to find out your part, your defect, where you were wrong here, right? And so it's very easy for me to see other people's defects. The reason why I have to sit down and tell this to somebody else is because I can't see mine. So I have to tell it to somebody who's not involved, who's neutral. Time after time, newcomers have tried to keep to themselves certain facts about their lives. Trying to avoid this humbling experience, they have turned to easier methods. Invariably, they got drunk. Having persevered with the rest of the program, they wondered why they fell. We think the reason is that they never completed their house cleaning. They took inventory all right, but hung on to some of the worst items in stock. They only thought they had lost their egoism and fear. They only thought they had humbled themselves, but they had not learned enough humility, fearlessness, and honesty in the sense we find it necessary until they told someone else all their life story. So here, people forget that if you forget something on your fourth step, that's one thing. That's something that you can remember later and you can go back and you can tell it to your sponsor. You can tell it to somebody. We're talking here about things that we purposefully leave out. I had them. I had things that I was going to leave out, things that I was going to take to my grave that I was never going to tell another human being. My sponsor said to me, well, how free do you want to be? How free do you want to be? You better get it all out there. And I found that to be true. So when you purposefully leave something out, when you say, I'll tell this and this and I'm going to do this, but there's anything that comes after the but is bull. You know what, right? So when they say, but I'm not telling this, that I'm keeping. That's the stuff that kills us. That's the most important stuff. Because within that, whatever that is that you're keeping, that's where the real guilt and the shame is. I have to get that stuff out. It's the most important part of this.